Does the price of your brush matter? Yes and no. I know you probably didn't want to hear that answer, but there are some nuances with the price of brushes and how well they perform. I'm Andrea from Santa Fe Painting Workshops, and today I'd like to share my very favorite brushes, ones that are definitely worth splurging on, and also some that are less than $10 but work really well. So let's go ahead and jump in. So first of all, let's talk about brush material. There are two types of brushes. There are natural brushes, so natural hair from animals, and then there are synthetic brushes. Whether you get a synthetic or a natural brush, what you want to make sure is the quality is good. And so let's talk a little bit more about how we can determine that. First of all, how is the brush constructed? The first thing you're looking at, and this is a Princeton Catalyst brush, so you want to make sure that the ferrule is attached well, that it's crimped down well onto the body of the brush, and that it doesn't come off at all. Now, when you're buying a new brush, and sometimes they're in packages, you can't always determine this, but a good brush will have a very strong bond here. Now, another note about the ferrule. So I've got a few brushes where the ferrule and the brush have start to separate. And so this brush I've had for 20 some years, and I am a little bit bad sometimes about keeping my brushes in the water. You're not supposed to do that. This is what happens if you keep your brushes in the water. And you can also see there's a bit of swelling there and splitting. I would say this is more user error than the quality of the brush. Now, if the ferrule does come apart from the brush, you can actually get Tyvek tape like this and you can tape it back together. Now, I put this tape on actually because I have about 5 different sets of brushes for my classes. So this is how I sort of mark off which ones belong to which set. But if it does come apart, you can get the Tyvek tape. It's made to be weather resistant. They use it to wrap houses with. So this will put your brush back together if you messed up your brush. Something else you want to look at is tapering. So you can see this brush, it tapers to a really nice point. The nice thing about that is that we can do really nice, precise lines with the tip, or we can get some wider lines by pushing on the side like this. Now, the next thing you want to consider is the bristle retention. And what I mean by that is if you've ever used a brush and you're painting and the bristles fall out, that means you're using a cheap brush, unfortunately. And that has happened to me before, and I've had to go in and pick them out with tweezers, and it's no fun. So if that starts to happen, perhaps you can try to return the brush and let them know what's going on. The more expensive brushes, that will not happen. The next thing is how long will the brush actually last with all these things considered? And if you take care of a brush, it will last for a long time. I have had these Escoda Chungking natural bristle brushes for about 20 years. These are hog hair, and I absolutely love these brushes. So I really love this brush. I've taken really good care of it. And so this has lasting power. These brushes are now about $60 for the really big ones. But for me to have this brush for 20 years, that's a very worthwhile expense, especially when it's one of the most used brushes that I have. So quick note here, if you're in the stage of putting together supplies and trying to figure out what to buy, I have some really good recommendations for what colors to buy. So I love color theory, and I have created a guide that lays out the most important paint colors that you should buy for color mixing. These are the basic colors that everyone should have and a few other recommended colors. And that guide is totally free. It's right below in the description. So you can click on that because it's hard to know what the difference is between all the different reds and the whites and the blacks. This guide will help you with that. So finally, what I want to point out is part of taking care of your brushes is the way you use it. And you're not supposed to use a brush like this, where you're pushing really hard on the bristles, because what happens is the bristles will splay out and get ruined. So I'm going to show you a few brushes where that happened. So I teach in-person classes and workshops, and I do teach beginners, and I don't always remind people not to use the brush in that way. So this brush, you can see that it is splayed out. Okay, this brush originally was much more of a taper, and now it is splayed out. So it's a very soft brush. It's nice for like maybe some kind of soft blending, but it doesn't have that taper at the end anymore. And the hairs are now splayed. Same thing with this brush. So you can see there how the hairs are sort of splaying out as opposed to this brush. You see, we don't really have any hairs splaying out there. And this one too, this is the 20-year brush, right? Most hairs are in place. This is something you want to be really careful about. Do not push hard on your brushes this way. You want to paint like this. You can go like this, but you don't want to do this. Perhaps if you want to do this kind of thing and be rough, get a cheaper brush that you don't care if it goes in the trash or if it gets ruined. So now let's talk about which brushes are worth splurging on and which ones are inexpensive but will give you some really nice strokes. I'm going to go ahead and call out 2 different brushes that I think are fantastic. So these are Princeton Catalyst brushes, and they are such excellent quality. They are relatively firm. They're a synthetic brush, but they are beautiful. They make beautiful marks. They are excellent quality, really good craftsmanship. I highly recommend these. These are definitely on the more expensive side. The other expensive brushes are back to my Escoda Chongqing brushes. I just love these things. What I love about them, and I'll just hold one up here, is the taper, okay? And also it's a pretty stiff brush, but it still has some play in it. So you can see that like it doesn't move a whole lot, right, when I'm pushing on it. And but there is a softness to the brush, and it's really nice for blending clouds and things like that, and for any kind of dry brush work. The largest one now costs about $60, but they are well worth it, and they'll last you a long time. So these are definitely splurge-worthy brushes. For inexpensive brushes that I highly recommend are these Royal and Langnickel Zen brushes. I got these from Michael's. I believe this size was about $12. The smaller ones are about $7, and I really love this brush. These are really nice for clouds. You can kind of use it on its side and get some nice clouds. I love this one for my precise lines. It's really great for wet brush technique and just nice contoured lines. I don't know how long these will last. I've only had them for about a year and a half, but they are really nicely made. So far I haven't had any issues with the brush separating from the actual handle. So I will go ahead and recommend these brushes as a really good, inexpensive brush. And then also the Blick Scholastic brush is a good one. It's a synthetic as well, and they come in a lot of different sizes. This is not taped together because it fell apart. It's because of my color coding for my brush sets. So this is also a good buy, and you can find these on Dick Blick's website. I have a lot more recommendations about brushes and about paints and palette knives and canvases. And so you can actually watch that tutorial. If you just click above, you will see a link to that video. It's called Acrylic Paint Supplies Guide Expert Picks. And so with 30 years painting experience, I have my best picks for all these supplies, and I have budget range, mid-range, and expensive, so that you can sort of plug in and pick out what works for your budget right now. Because ultimately, I know that painting supplies are really expensive, and so we want to be mindful about how we're spending our money. But the conclusion here is that it is worth it to spend money on a really good brush, especially if you will take good care of it. If you don't have the funds, there are plenty of decent brushes out there. So like I said, check out that video. I will also link to it after this video, and you can get the list with links to all the different supplies that I recommend that are not going to break your budget, but they're going to work really well for you. So let me know in the comments below, are there brushes that you love that are splurge worthy, or maybe brushes that are inexpensive that have also been really great? I would love to hear about other brushes that have worked for people. Also, please share this video with anyone you think who might benefit. When you like and you subscribe to my videos, it actually gets it out to more people. So if you think this is worthy information, please like and subscribe and help to spread the knowledge, because I love to teach and I want more people to be painting. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.